Evaluate. Express your answer in scientific notation. So first things first is it says quotient. Quotient means that we are going to divide. So let's rewrite the problem as it'll typically look, and it's going to be rewritten as 1.44 times 10 to the power of 8, and then we'll give it a fraction bar, and then we'll go ahead and rewrite the rest of it. So it's going to be 6.0 times 10 to the power of 5. Our instructions state that we're going to do a couple steps. What we're going to do is we're going to divide the coefficients, and the coefficients are going to be this right here. So I'm going to show you the long division for this right here. And then the second thing, and then we're going to deal with the powers. Again, we're going to divide the powers, and that's this part right here. Let's start with the powers. So 10 to the power of 8 times 10 to the power of 5. We would simply write 10 to the power of 8 subtract a power of 5. And 10 to the power of 8 minus 5 is going to be 10 to the power of 3. So I could come down here and I could put times 10 to the power of 3, and I could just simplify the powers. Switching over to green now, I'm going to have to go ahead and rewrite this in long division. And so typically I'll start by writing 6.0. The denominator becomes my divisor, and I need to divide 6.0 into 1.44. But a common strategy when you do long division is you want to change the divisor and make it a whole number. So I'm going to move that one place to the right, which means I'll move this one place to the right. So instead of moving that, I guess you could start out by simply saying 60 divided into 14.4. And don't forget where you move the decimal. I'd suggest you bring that up for your quotient straight off. All right, so 60 is now just a quick reminder of long division, daddy, mother, sister, brother, or dirty monkeys stink blood, or Dracula's mother sucks blood. This is a mnemonic just to go through the steps of long division. D stands for divide, M stands for multiply, S stands for subtract, and B stands for bring down. Again, you probably worked on this like 4th, 5th, and 6th. So let's see, 60 does not divide into 1. 60 does not divide into 14, but 60 does go into 144 twice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the support for this, moving this to the side. Some people are going to be tempted to go ahead and simply use a calculator, but without these calculations to the side, to be honest with you, I'm just going to assume you're using a calculator, so please support your work. 2 multiplied by 60 is 120. And now I have to subtract 120 from 144. 4 minus 0 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. I'm now going to add another 0, and then I'm going to bring it down. Again, we want to keep dividing until it terminates. Now 60 goes into 240. I know for a fact it's 4 times, but again, don't just assume that you know it. Prove that you know it. So let's do 60 times 4. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 6 is 24, so that's going to be 240. And let's see, at this point, 240 minus 240, that's going to give us 0, so it actually terminates. So now I'm going to take this 0.24 and I'm going to put this over here, and we're almost done. 0.24. Okay, so now we do have a little bit of a hint. When we get to number 3, it says combine the coefficient and powers. We did. But the problem is it has to be in scientific notation. And when it's in scientific notation, you want to look at Lars and make sure that you use Lars. Remember, left you add a power, and if you move right, you subtract a power. So in this case, I actually need to move the power 1 to the right. And if I move it 1 to the right, again, look over here, guys. If you move it right, you're going to subtract. Again, if you move it right, you're going to subtract. So I'm going to subtract 1 right here. Now I'm going to write my final answer is 2.4 times 10 to the power, let's see, 3 minus 1 is 2. So that's going to be my final answer, 2.4 times 10 to the power of 2. Box your final answer, and that's it. There's more than justification for selecting and putting this in. All right, let's try another one. Okay, so again, set up the fraction. So we have 2.66 times 10 to the power of 8. And I would suggest, if you feel like you have a general idea of how to do this, I'd say pause the video, try and work it out on your own. So similarly, we're going to deal with the coefficients right here. And let's see, 3.5 is going to change to 35. Move it once to the right. And then I'll move this once to right, so that's going to change to 26.6. I'm going to bring the decimal up over here. And let's see, 35 does not go into 2. It does not go into 26. 35 goes into 266. I believe that's 7 times. Let's go ahead and just multiply over here. So 35 times 7. 5 times 7 is 35. Regroup. 7 times 3 is 21 plus 4 is 24. Yeah, I feel pretty good about that. So 7 now multiplied by 35 is 245. And 6 minus 5 is 1. 6 minus 4 is 2. We're going to add a 0. Again, we want to keep dividing until it terminates. So it looks like we have to go 35 into 210. Well, obviously 7 times was 245, so I'm going to try 6 times. Again, 35 times 6, show the calculations. 5 times 6 is 30, regroup. 3 times 6 is 18 plus 1 is 21, and there you go, terminates. 6 times 35 is 210, and 210 minus 210, it terminates. So this division right here is going to be replaced with decimal 76. Get out a 0 if you want. And now what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to blue, and we're going to deal with the powers right here. So 10 to the power of 8 divide by 10 to the power of 2 is really 10 to the 8 subtract 2, which would simplify as 10 to the power of 6. So let's put times 10 to the power of 6. Step number 3, make sure it's in scientific, and notice that again we're having to deal with Lars again. So I'm going to have to go ahead and move this decimal 1 place to the right, but when I move it to the right I have to subtract a power. So I'm going to go ahead and do subtract 1. And that's going to switch it to 7.6 times 10 to the power of 5. Box that one and feel pretty good. Got all our calculations, everything to support it. And we'll just write it down here, 7.6 times 10 to the power of 5. All right. Again, I'm going to go ahead and do one more question with you. Again, I'd suggest you try and do this on your own. Pause the video, try on your own, then you'll get some feedback, whether you're getting it right or wrong. So let's start with our fraction bar. 1.06 times 10 to the power of 7 divide by 2.65 times 10 to the power of 4. So notice the division over here anyways is going to be a little bit harder. So let's go ahead and divide our coefficients. Again, that's dealing with this right here. This 2.65, I'm going to move it 2 places to the right, so that's just going to turn to 265. But then I'm going to have to move this 2 places to the right, so that 1.06 actually changes to 106. And so notice that the decimal would be after the 6 right there. Okay, so 265 obviously does not go into 1. 265, again, does not go into 10, because that'd be 10 there. And 265 does not go into 106, so that's 0. So now I'm going to have to add a 0, and 265 I can go into 1,000. Let's try 265. Maybe let's do 4 or 5. Let's try 4. 265 multiplied by 4. 5 times 4 is 20. Regroup. 6 times 4 is 24. Plus 2 is 26. Regroup the 2. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10, and we actually got it the first time. Now if I had done 5, obviously that would be too big, and if I had 3 it would be too small, so you can support all your work by showing the multiplication on the side, but we got it the first time. So 4 times 265 is 1060, and although it looked like there was more work, we actually only had to do our long division once right here. So I'm going to go ahead and replace the division with 0.4, and now I'm going to go ahead and deal with the powers. So I've got 10 to the 7 divided by 10 to the 4, which is really 10 to the 7, or 10 to the power of 7 minus a power of 4. And that's going to simplify as 10 to the power of 3. So times 10 to the power of 3, and then obviously we'll move the decimal 1 place to the right. But like we did, when we move it to the right, we're going to go ahead and subtract. So I'm going to subtract 1. So that's going to change as 4.0 times 10 to the power of 2. 4.0 times 10 to the power of 2. And some people ask, like, well, could we just put 4? That's sure, you could just put 4. I would err on the side of caution and be more precise. And I think 4.0 is going to be, it looks a lot more like scientific notation than just 4 times 10 squared. And there you have it. So hopefully you found it helpful. Hopefully you got this one right. If not, ask me to help you out. I'd love to provide some clarity. Thank you for viewing.